Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you decided to click on this video. So a few months back I did a video where I tier ranked my favorite and least favorite romance tropes. And as I'm not a huge romance reader, I think, it was an interesting thing for me to kind of like really look at what tropes I can't stand and what are more inclined to like help me like a romance book. I am, however, a huge mystery, suspense, thriller reader, so I figured let's do the same kind of thing. I tried to leave out like horror tropes because I feel like I read enough horror that I would love to do like another whole video of horror tropes. So this one is just going to be thriller tropes. Things I like, things I don't like. Let's see how it goes. So without further ado, let's get started. So to start it off, we have my 5 categories, which is give me more. Obviously, it's something that I really, really love. Generally enjoy. A trope that, like, overall is something that I am definitely interested in reading. Not something that I immediately am like, nah. But, I've not, like, fully fallen in love with it. When done right, which is exactly like it sounds, if a book is got a certain trope, I generally maybe feel kind of neutral or don't like it, but if it's done in a certain way, then I will definitely like it. Rarely, which it means that I rarely like this trope, but I'm not like completely, it maybe won't completely ruin a book for me. And never, which, means that I absolutely never will want to read this trope. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory categories, so let's just get going with the different tropes I have laid out. So, first of all, we have amnesia. And you'd think because I made these, I would have like thought about it a little bit before this video I started filming, but I didn't really. I feel like amnesia I'm gonna put in when done right. It's a trope that I have known to like at times, but I feel like it's kind of used as a cop-out a lot. It feels like, oh, the author couldn't figure out how to make this part of the story fit, so we're just gonna say amnesia. And I just like feel like that's lazy writing. So when it's done right, I enjoy an amnesia trope. Creepy kids. That is an give me more. I will read anything with a creepy kid. The Push is definitely a favorite and one that stands out in my mind as like being awesome with a creepy kid. Also, The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Yeah, just like I love those things where the kids are like saying some weird stuff and the adults in their lives are like, wait, what? What is happening here? So that is definitely a trope that I will always gravitate towards, as well as cults. Hit me with a cult anytime. That is just, yeah, that's the move. I've read so many books with like cults in there somewhere, and they're always something that like, even if it doesn't end up being like a 5-star favorite book, I'm always gonna read a cult book without fail. Dual timelines. I'm gonna put this under when done right for a few reasons. There's a lot of thrillers that I feel like do a dual timeline where we're in the present day and then it's like something in the past that we have no clue how it relates to the present day events. And I don't like that. If I can tell, if it's like someone in present day that's like, say, found like an old diary of like their great-great-grandma, and so they're reading it, and like that's kind of how the story is in dual timelines, that is fine. I like that. That's cool. But I just don't like it when I'm like, okay, what's the connection? Why should I care about this person in the past in relation to this person that you introduced me to first? So I feel like, yeah, when done right, I do enjoy it, but it's not like a given. It's got to be done well. Family secrets, I'm going to say generally enjoy. That is a trope that I feel like I can usually get behind. I do love like family dramas in general, which, is kind of its own subcategory of just general fiction. And I feel like those are books that I tend to really, really love. So I feel like family secrets in thrillers is usually a good thing for me. But yeah, I'm trying to think of any examples, but I really can't. I just think that overall, like, I do like that. Is it a ghost? I will say rarely, because I have this weird thing. So, hear me out. I love horror books. I like horror books with paranormal, with like haunted houses, with like curses and all this stuff, like fully unrealistic. But when I'm reading a thriller, I go into the book thinking this is based in reality. And in reality, I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. So for me to kind of get myself into the correct setting is really hard in a thriller where I've been introduced to this book as something, yeah, based in reality. When I go into a horror book, I'm not necessarily expecting it to feel real. Hopefully that makes sense and like understandable why I feel the way I do, but I'm not going to say it's something like I fully rule out, but overall I would think that it's rarely one that I like. And a lot of times in thrillers, is it a ghost turns out to be like not a ghost, and then I get like Scooby-Doo vibes, and like that just kind of ruins it for me. So yeah, that's like a rarely can I do it in a thriller. In a horror, different story. Return to Hometown. I'm kind of torn on this one because I like it. I'm sick of it. So I'll put it in generally. I'll put it in when done right, because I just feel like we've had so many of these lately. I feel like I say it all the time when I'm like talking about different books that I've read this before, and I feel like a lot of times when I read those books, I feel like I've read it before. Oh, this thing happened in your hometown 20 years ago, and then it starts again, so you have to go home and see what's going on and check it out, and you're faced with your demons of the past, and like it just does nothing for me at this point. I think that I used to enjoy that, but at this point I've read it and nothing is like really shocking or thrilling to me at this point with that trope, so I'm just kind of done. I Know What You Did, Blackmail. I'm gonna put this in generally enjoy. Those are pretty good most of the time. There's a few that I feel like I've not liked so much, which is like what is it called? In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Like that is one where I think they like all got like letters to go to this like college reunion, and they know someone knows what happened, and I don't know, it just like it feels like a book I've read before. But it's not, maybe not exactly the fault of the trope itself. It's just like I'm tired of it again. But I feel like a lot of times I do like that, but I hate it when an author will like withhold everything until the end. Like, you gotta give us bits and pieces throughout the book, because if they're just like holding on to this secret, I'm building this up to be like something insane. Like, I need this to be off the wall bonkers, and it never really does that. It's usually like, we covered up a crime, and like, not to say that that's not bad or scary if someone's going to expose you or whatever, but like in a book we've seen way worse. In reality, different story, but in a book, like, we've seen it all, and so it's just kind of, you know, just feels overdone. Locked Room. I am going to put this in rarely. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these are maybe like things that I would like, but I'm tired of. I think Locked Room books, I don't know. Actually, I'm going to put that in never, because I haven't even read that many of them, because as soon as I hear that it's like a locked room mystery, I'm like, bye. Some of the ones that I have not liked at all were One by One by Ruth Ware, Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. There's others I liked, and then there were none, because it was like quite literally the OG locked room thriller, and I read that I think before I got into reading a ton of like mystery thrillers. So yeah, that's a different kind of situation, but I don't know. Overall, it's just like not a trope that like kind of speaks to me, and I feel like it's so overused at this point. what's another one? The wet the Guest List by Lucy Foley. Hard pass. Did not like at all. So yeah, I think maybe just locked room is not the vibe for me. Mentally ill, and when I put that, I mean like the villain or whatever. The twist is that someone's mentally ill, and that is a hard never for me because I've yet to see it be realistic or well done or coming from a place of empathy. I feel like it's always just like, that man crazy, put him in jail or whatever. I feel like if there was, you know, I don't know, a way for it to be done well, I've yet to see it. And I feel like making a mentally ill person with whatever mental illness, there are many, many, kind of just reinforces a stigma about like mental illness and what that looks like on actual human beings. Not to say that I don't like to see mental illness represented in books. Like if a main character has a mental illness, that's fine, but this is not a reason why they're doing these bad things, if that makes sense. Revenge. Oh, I'm all here for revenge. That is a give me more. And when I say revenge, I feel like I mean more as in the main character is getting revenge on someone else. Not so much like someone's out to get them for revenge. Because I mean, that just is, that revenge, what I said before, kind of goes with like, I know what you did, where like someone else is trying to get revenge on them. I like it when the main character is just giving someone their comeuppance. That is definitely something I love reading about. I think it's like just fun to kind of guess be in like the bad guy's mind, even if the other person was also a bad guy. I don't know. I just think revenge stories are fun to read. Police procedural. I am going to put this in When Done Right. Because I don't feel like these are books that I always like, but I've liked enough of them that I feel like I would be lying if I said that like rarely. I have to just kind of make my brain like this is an idealized like version of the police. I also don't like it when like the twist is that a cop is like the killer all along. Like, I don't know. In my fantasy world where the police are good guys all the time, I don't need you doing that to me. Like, I don't need a dirty cop situation. So, I don't know. I feel like when it's done right, it is done right. And when it's not, it is a not for me. Rich people scandal. You know I love rich people scandal. Rich people anything is just like perhaps one of my favorite things to read about. Yeah, they fascinate me, and how they think that like their money can make them untouchable from justice and whatever. So I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I think that is a give me more. Always open to reading about rich people and their sad lives. Small town. I'm gonna say When Done Right, because I feel like they can get really boring, and I almost feel like certain small town like thrillers I've liked when they've kind of been based in like a historical setting, which I'm thinking of kind of William Kent Kruger's books, which all have a mystery or like a murder or thriller, whatever aspect at heart, but there's so much more to it than that, like other issues being talked about and addressed. So I feel like that is a book trope that it's like, overall, yeah, but it does like need a certain something to get me really invested. But I've certainly been known to enjoy a small town murder mystery. Unreliable narrator. This is one I'm going to put in generally enjoy, but like I need to explain a little bit more about what I'm saying here. I do not care for the like alcoholic soccer mom or divorcee or whatever. That it's tired. I'm tired of it. Whatever. I like an unreliable narrator where like they're just deep in delusion. I guess I guess that is more like what I said. Like I read this book recently called One of the Good Guys by Araminta Hall, and I talked about it on here, but it was about this guy who, you know, is like, how do I describe him? He thinks he's like a good guy, even though he's kind of misogynistic in his viewpoints, but to him, he's just like protecting women and, you know, is just totally lost in his delusions of what a great guy he is because he's not a rapist, essentially. So I feel like that book was really good, and I liked that he was unreliable in that we were only getting his side of the story, and his side of the story was clearly something dicey was going on. So that is the kind of like unreliable narrator I like, where they're just like kind of out of touch with reality versus like alcoholics who like think they are seeing things they're not seeing. Vacation setting. I'm gonna put this in rarely. I don't know. This is one that I've just like read several books about, and I just feel like they're boring. Like a vacation setting, I don't know. It shouldn't be scary or thrilling. Vacations should be relaxing, and I'm sad for the characters when they have to be worried about murderers on their trip. I don't know. I just feel like there's just not that much to say, and for some reason, like in these kind of vacation thrillers, there's always like no one else at the resort, which is just kind of weird. There's just so many like weird kind of like plot holes consistently throughout this trope that I just roll my eyes at. So I don't know. I feel like that's just, yeah, rarely is something that I am interested in. Meddling journalist. I saw this on somebody else's tier and I was like, oh yes, we need to put that in here. I'm going to put that in rarely because usually they don't really move the plot along. Generally speaking, a meddling journalist tends to be like a side character. Every now and then they're the main character. But a lot of times they end up being like a side character whose perspective we get to like supplement the main character's perspective. And I don't care for that. It just, I don't know. It feels like a lot of them fully like overstep boundaries, and while I know that they have a job to do, and I'm certainly have no experience in this, so I don't want to act like I know stuff, I'm like, do you not care about like your friends and family? Because you're putting yourself into a really risky position, and like, again, not a journalist, so maybe this is not that uncommon, but it just feels like, what are you doing, honey? No. That's not, no. I don't know. I just feel like generally they don't add much to the plot. And this is definitely speaking as if they're a side character, not a main character. If they're a main character and they're a journalist, I might just not read the book, to be quite honest. It just really depends. However, in a similar kind of vein, I do love a meddling podcast host because I feel like they have a little more liberty because there's like, it's still a pretty new industry. And so they're a little more like freelancey sort of, and just a little less like written in stone like rules for, you know, existing in that capacity. So I think that that's like kind of a weird thing to say, that I like one but not the other, but that's the case. And the last one I came up with was a morally gray main character, and I'm going to put this under generally enjoy. I generally like a morally gray main character that's a female, weirdly, and not so much a man. I just feel like it's much more endearing to me when like this middle-aged woman or young 20-something like gets up and she's smoking cigarettes and making smart-ass jokes and just like whatever. That's kind of cuter to me than when it's a man, because there's like always, not always, but there's often some kind of like sexual tension between like the lead detective on the case and the morally gray main character, and I just feel like it's more fun when it's like a main character that's got some attitude and edge. I don't know if that makes sense, because I mean, that's definitely not like a huge number of thrillers, but like I feel like it's enough that that's like kind of what I got in my head when I was like thinking about a morally gray main character. So yeah, I don't know. So those are my opinions on some of the most popular thriller tropes, and kind of ones that I just have strong feelings on, some less so, but I would love to know what tropes you love, what tropes you will not touch with a 10-foot pole, and just any tropes you think I missed that you want my opinion on, because there are certainly more than I picked out, but I didn't want this video to be super long. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!